Woofer already. I just want to say thank you all for being here this morning. The goal this morning is to review the findings from the incident that took place at the racetrack on South Orlando back in June of last year. You know, it's important to provide as much information as far as clarity of the circumstances that took place and review the actions of our officers. So on June 1st of last year at the racetrack at 3760 Orlando Drive, 5:08 in the morning, our officers responded to a disturbance call. It was a 911 call regarding an employee who was locked in a bathroom with a homeless male. Officers arrived on scene during the call. Officers entered the bathroom of the gas station, took the individual into custody. The victim sustained severe lacerations to her neck and her mouth. On March 2nd of this year, a video was circulated on YouTube with clips from the body cam of this incident. The body cam was released via a public records request. There were 18 videos, approximately 7 hours and 23 minutes. There were some concerning issues with regards to the response to the two officers, or the two primary officers who responded to this incident. So what we're going to show you is just a portion of this video. And it's probably the biggest part of the video where you will see that there is a floating, looks like a wolf head or wolf design that's in the background of this video. What that will give you is a good idea that this video was doctored and that the 911 call that was received through dispatch was not relayed to the officers. And what many people have a misconception of is that when someone calls 911 or you call the non-emergency number, you're automatically going to hear everything that the dispatcher and or the call taker is going to get. That's not what happened. So we'll go ahead and play the video. Again, if you look at the video, you'll see a little wolf thing right there, and then you'll see like a wolf design in the back. That was transposed by the individual who posted the video.
911. My coworker, my admission manager, has been locked in the men's bathroom with another man who's not letting her out. Okay, hold on. You said your coworker's locked in the bathroom? Did he put his hands on her? Hello? He's got a knife. Okay. Can he cut her neck?
So what many people on our social media have posted was that the officer actually heard those cries and screams. So what I want to do is give you the general procedures of what takes place. There are two different forms of communications that happens upstairs in the communication center. The first is what's called a call taker. So if you call 911 or if you call the non-emergency number, what ends up happening is someone is going to take that call and they're going to listen to what you have to say. The next thing happens is that information is given to a dispatcher. The dispatcher is the one who actually, you will hear in the next video, who is giving the information to the officer who is going to the scene. That same information is given to all of the officers, which is completely different than the overlay that took place. The officers did not hear the screams and shouts that you just heard that was overlaid on that video. So this is the actual video and dispatch that went to all of the officers within the city that morning. You may hear me speak over so I can give you ideas of what's taking place.
3760 Orlando Drive, 56 is complainant. Their coworkers locked in the bathroom with a male. They're screaming from the background.
The dispatcher doesn't hear it either. The only person who hears that screaming is the call taker. So essentially, it started out as a disturbance, and now they've upgraded this to a call where the individual has a knife. This is the actual body cam, the actual information that the officers are hearing.
Yeah, but check on the monitor, see if this is a surgery. What else is inside? It's just me and my assistant manager, and I'm in the bathroom. Where's your assistant manager? She's in the bathroom. Sir! Children's were all inside the store. Apparently the subject is inside with the assistant. Hey, can you hear me? Hey, can you wait outside? Can you wait outside?
So as the officer enters, and here's where some of the deficiencies come in. The officer met with the individuals who witnessed this incident. The officer had information once he got inside. The officer at one point can hear an audible coming from the bathroom. Once we get a little further on, I'll explain the fact that the officer should have taken appropriate action at that time. The second officer who arrived was Officer Castro. His video is coming up next. This is Officer Castro's actual body cam. Again, his encounter with the individuals outside leads him to have some information, but not clearly the information needed. So during the course of this time, you hear Officer Castro ask, "What do you want to do?" Officer Delorbe says, "We're going to wait." In a few seconds, you'll hear the third and fourth officer who will arrive on scene. Officer Delorbe is now speaking with Officer Morales. In a moment, you'll see Officer Byrd, who will arrive and moves toward the door, where effectively he goes in So during the course of this, the first two officers essentially had every responsibility to go in based on our policies and procedures. The next two officers who arrived effectively followed the department procedures and moved forward. So on March 3rd, the officers who arrived was Officers Morales and Byrd. They heard the victim call for help. And then Officer Byrd, as I said before, immediately moved toward the door and effectively subdued the individual. On March 3rd, the information came to my office about the circumstances of this case. Officer Delorbe and Officer Castro were placed on administrative leave immediately and was taken out of service on March 10th. Additionally, the supervisors in that chain of command were also fully involved in this internal affairs investigation. The findings of the case. The first officer who arrived was Dominic Delorbe. He was the first officer there. He was dispatched at 5:09 and arrived at 5:10. The second officer, my notes are all out of order. I was coming down the stairs and my papers went all over the place. So in the call on his body cam, you could hear the employees locked in the bathroom. They upgraded it to a 00, indicating that there was a knife that was there. Delorbe was the most veteran officer on the scene initially. He asked to make sure that it wasn't a signal 23, which is covered, talks about a robbery. When he got there, he was informed. She had been cut, she was down in the bathroom, and it was on the last door. He was also informed that the individual had a knife, and that subsequently the individual or our victim had been cut and was called multiple times, or heard calling for help multiple times. Officer Giovanni Castro arrived on scene. You can hear in his transmissions, it was similar to that of Officer Delorbe's. He arrived at 5:12. Again, in his body cam, you hear the same information that Delorbe heard. The witnesses informed him that she had been cut. The one difference between the two of them is that Delorbe was there first. Delorbe heard the victim making calls and asking for help. Delorbe failed to move forward and take action at that point. You hear Officer Castro ask, "What do you want to do?" Officer Delorbe tells him, "We want to wait." Again, I wanted to preface is that Delorbe was the most senior officer on the scene at that time. One of the important parts about our response to resistance, SOP, is that the agency's policy during an active assailant threat where continuous violence or death is responsible, essentially is this. The officers had a responsibility and a duty to act. They had a responsibility and duty to act if there was one officer or two officers. He knew that someone had already informed him that a situation had taken place, and it was clearly his responsibility, the first officer, to take action. The second officer that got there, again, following directions of the most senior person there, he should have taken action, but made the decision, hey, can we get a shield? Should we wait for additional officers? What are the circumstances that are there? Clearly, the first officer failed to provide the additional information needed for the second officer to move forward. So the findings in this case, Officer Delorbe was sustained. He was sustained for failure to respond alone and engage the active assailant and neutralize the threat, where anyone is engaged in an active or ongoing act of violence toward another, and there is risk of serious bodily harm or death. During the course of my termination of Officer Delorbe for his failure to act, he presented a letter of resignation, which I accepted. Officer Castro, being a probationary officer, new junior officer that was there, following the directions of his senior officer, was suspended for 5 days without pay, an extension of his probationary period, and retraining on the active assailant process. And one of the things that I do want to make very clear is In June of last year and again June of this year, our active assailant training has been redone. Every officer has gone through the active assailant training, and they will go through a second phase of that training next month in June. Additional findings. The supervisors who failed to follow rules and regulations 300-6 for properly notifying the chain of command was sustained. There was a sergeant, a lieutenant, and a captain in those orders, and each of them received a letter of counseling. Additionally, in one of the other body cams, and as we indicated before, there were 18 body cams in 7 hours and 23 minutes of actual films. We saw that one of our other officers made a derogative, off-colored comment about the mental health of the suspect. That officer resigned during the reception or inception of this investigation. 2 of the officers are no longer employed with the city of Sanford. And so we do recognize that this is a tragic situation, and we as a department want to be transparent and acknowledge that there is some concerns. We believe that we have taken the appropriate actions to deal with those circumstances. We appreciate the patience given by our community as we work through this investigation, and as its conclusion. We will continue to expect our officers to fulfill their duties with integrity, dedication, and adhere to department policies and procedures.